another episode of Writer's Block. I am your host, as always, Journal staff writer Sean Reider. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Nevada Sportsnet columnist Chris Murray. Chris has been covering the Nevada Wolfpack for a long time, does a great job covering them, and he really gave us some great insights today, kind of previewing New Mexico's upcoming homecoming game against Nevada on Saturday. Big game for both teams, frankly. Both are 0-2 in conference, and this is kind of a big one for UNM in a lot of respects, man. I mean, if you take care of business, I think you get a share of the momentum back. If, struggle a little bit and maybe don't win the game, I think there's going to be some interesting questions kind of at the end of this one. But Chris gave did an awesome job sharing the Nevada perspective. Before we get into that conversation, though, I do want to encourage you guys, as always, to subscribe to us on YouTube, keep following the content on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. Also encourage you guys to tune into Jeff Graham and I's weekly live shows that we do after Jason X's weekly press conference on Tuesdays, and then after post games on Fridays and Saturdays, depending on when the game is. We love the comments, we love the engagement, and we love doing the show with you guys, frankly. You guys basically produce the show for us, so encourage you guys to to tap in there. And as always, subscribe to the Journal if you can, and keep following our written content. There's a lot of great stuff coming, not just out of sports, but out of the news division as well. That being said, though, I hope you enjoy our conversation with Chris Murray here.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
All right, today I am pleased to be joined by the great Chris Murray, columnist for Nevada Sportsnet. Chris, thanks for coming on, man. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Getting into this weekend's game, Nevada is 1-5, 0-2 in the Mountain West, entering this Saturday's game at University Stadium, 7:45 p.m. Mountain Time. We talked over the summer on a previous episode previewing Nevada and what some things might look like for the Wolfpack this season. I don't bring this up as like a gotcha, but like you said, you kind of had them record prediction of like 6-6 overall, 4-4 in conference. You said that was kind of a touch optimistic projection, but probably realistic and necessary. With where they are right now, I mean, what has changed in terms of how you're looking at the team then and how you're looking at it now?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was kind of asking me in town as well, like, can Nevada make a bowl? And what I would always tell them is I think they can go 6-6 if Chuba Purdy plays like above average. And he's the quarterback for Nevada, and he didn't end up playing above average. And now he's not the starting quarterback anymore. So I think that's been the biggest issue. When you look at Nevada, they lead the nation in turnovers. They lead the nation in interceptions thrown. And now they've used 3 different starting quarterbacks. So when you get that kind of inconsistent play from the most important position on the field, you're not going to be very successful. So while the defense has played pretty well, while the special teams has improved from last year, while the run game has generally been okay, they just have not got functional quarterback play. And last week they went to a true freshman in Carter Jones, and he had a couple of interceptions, including an early pick 6 to put Nevada down 14-0, 8 minutes into the game, and just couldn't recover in a 44-10 loss to San Diego State. So Nevada's not been able to find an answer at that quarterback position. That was my biggest concern coming into the year, whether Chuba Purdy could lead an offense with his arm. He's a very good runner, and it has proven out that he's not been capable of doing that. And now Nevada's looking at a true freshman to potentially try and jolt the offense. And, he's a very talented player, Carter Jones, the true freshman you're going to see play at New Mexico. Putting a true freshman in for his first start against a top 10 defense in the nation at San Diego State was probably not the perfect formula, but that's what Nevada went with. And you could see a true freshman having some nerves against a very talented Aztecs defense.
Are you surprised that Nevada, went to Jones kind of as early as they did? I probably should say early. I mean, we're basically mid-season at this point, but are you surprised that it kind of happened at this point in the season?
I mean, Coach Joe was getting a lot of criticism. Why didn't you go to him earlier? Because what we saw in the second half against Fresno State, Nevada was down 20-3 against the Bulldogs. Carter Jones starts the second half. He leads back-to-back touchdown drives. He threw 2 touchdowns on back-to-back series when Nevada had just 2 touchdown passes in its first 4.5 games before that. So I think the question around here is why didn't we see this kid earlier? I think the mistake Nevada made was after its second game, a close win against Sac State. Nevada probably should have lost. It got a pick 6 in the last couple of minutes. It then went to A.J. Bianco to start over Chuba Purdy. And that was really over just one game. I mean, the season opener at Penn State, you kind of throw away. Chuba didn't play great against Sac State, and then they went with the new starting quarterback. And Chuba Purdy kind of had to come in that third game against Middle Tennessee, which is just an abysmal FBS team that Nevada was up 14 or 13-0 on and lost that game. But I think that kind of disrupted the plan at the quarterback position. I think had Chuba played against Middle Tennessee and it didn't go well, and then played against Western Kentucky and it didn't go well, well, maybe you turn the team over to Carter Jones a little bit earlier. But Nevada's quarterback play has just been so poor that I'm not surprised that Carter Jones is getting a shot because A, he looks very talented in practice, and B, it literally can't be worse. It's not just that Nevada's quarterbacks haven't played well. They've been turning the ball over and giving games to the opposition. I mean, last week's game against San Diego State was the first one that was super uncompetitive for Nevada since the Penn State game. Sac State, Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, Fresno State, those are all essentially one-possession games, where if Nevada's not turning it over 2 or 3 times a game, the Wolfpack probably wins those games. So I think just the fact that the turnovers were not abiding was the reason that Carter Jones got this call. And at this point in the season, you probably roll with him the remainder of the year, as long as the games are competitive. If you see a lot more games like last week, maybe you go back to Chuba Purdy just to try and keep things close. But I think at least the staff believes that Carter Jones is going to give them the best option to win games.
What should UNM fans, because we all kind of talked in the summer and figured, Purdy was going to be the guy throughout the season, all that. What should UNM fans know about Carter Jones in particular and what he's going to bring to the game this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, 6'3", he's from Lancaster, Texas. He played in arguably the hardest district of high school football in the entire country, and they actually leveled up from the 5A to the 6A his senior season. So, he wasn't like on the most talented team, but he had a lot of success. I think he's got a very quick release, one of the quickest I've ever seen. He makes quick decisions and gets the ball out, and in practice, it's been very accurate. Now, in the game against San Diego State, he was not very accurate, and he was probably not making decisions as quickly as you saw in practice. Now, it's different going against a scout team in practice versus going against the top 10 defense in the FBS in terms of scoring points allowed against San Diego State. He's an athletic kid, but he's not someone who's going to go run for big chunks of yards. I think he can keep a read option, and that will be in the playbook, but he wants to throw the ball. So I think the arm strength is there. I think everybody has kind of pointed out is the poise and the composure is very good. I think he did get a little nervy in the early parts of the San Diego State game and maybe tried to force some things. But I think this is a kid who's a starting level player in the Mountain West. I don't know if this year was the plan to play him this much. So it might be uneven, but what we saw in the San Diego State game is not reflective of generally what we've seen in practices and scrimmages. And even earlier against Fresno State, he played really, really well against Fresno State. In the second half, he was 11 of 14 with more than 100 yards and 2 touchdowns and really did a good job of pulling Nevada back into that game. So if you could see the Fresno State version of Carter Jones, I think Nevada has a really good shot against New Mexico. If it's the San Diego State version, Nevada's not going to beat New Mexico.
And it's such like a small sample size, like you kind of noted for Jones right now, right? Like the San Diego State game is not going to be fair for just about for a lot of quarterbacks, even those who have experience. And we've kind of seen that to this point in the year. And then obviously he has the really bright spot in the Fresno State game and all that. But in terms of like going to a true freshman quarterback, basically midway through the season and all that, is this kind of like resetting the clock in some ways for Choate and all that? Like, how are you kind of looking at that? Because they're going off script from what the plan was originally this season. How are fans treating that?
Well, I think the fans want Jeff Choate gone. I mean, a certain group of them. And it's kind of like, that's not happening. A, there's a buyout. B, the athletic director who hired him is not going to fire him after 2 years. But it is interesting because you look at the coach before Jeff Choate, Ken Wilson. He went 2-10 and 2-10. Had a winless season in Mountain West play, and he was gone after 2 years. Now, the athletic director who made that decision wasn't the one who hired him. Jeff Choate went 3-10 last year, on pace for 2-10 this year, has still not won a Mountain West game. He's not going to be gone after this year. He's going to be given more opportunity, partially because of the buyout, partially because of the fact that the athletic director who hired him is still in place and believes in him. I think we need to see more. I think Nevada played much better than 3-10 appeared last year. And this year's been disappointing because it's been a step back. Nevada has not been as good this year as it was last year. It did play 16 freshmen, true or redshirt, in that game against San Diego State. So you could see kind of a changing of the guard of let's get some of these young players a little bit more time. This isn't maybe a lost season quite yet at 1-5. I think there are still some winnable games on the schedule, but not based on how Nevada has played. So I think that there is a lot of apathy right now with the Nevada football fan base. The Wolfpack has lost 13 straight conference games. The Wolfpack is 2-23 in the Mountain West since 2022. This is a team that was on the verge of playing for Mountain West championships in 2020 and 2021 under Jay Norvell. He leaves to go to Colorado State, and the program has not recovered since. 2-23 in conference over a 4-year period is unacceptable. These are the programs you're supposed to be competitive against. Now, half of that has been Ken Wilson. A little bit less than half of that has been Jeff Choate. But this is a program that made 14 bowls in 17 seasons before this recent 4-year stretch, and they just have not been able to figure it out as a football program to put a winning product on the field. So I think the fans are very, very upset with the state of the program and how poor it's been the last 4 years. And you can't blame them because Nevada has not played good football for the majority of the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, and I agree with you, frankly, because I thought I thought last year, they were a lot better than the record indicating. You kind of saw that if you were watching the games and all that. So this year has been kind of a puzzler for me because I did pick them last in the Mountain West, but I didn't think they were going to actually finish blasted in the Mountain West, frankly. I thought somebody else was going to drop down. Going to some of the, kind of the other side of the ball, though. Coach Jason Eck was kind of gushing about him yesterday during the press conference. Dylan Labara has been having a kind of a monster season. Leads the team, I believe, in total tackles, leads the league in sacks and tackles for loss. This has been a monster for Nevada. How have you kind of seen his rise through this, for the first half of the season?
Literally didn't know his name at the start of last season. So he was a transfer from a junior college, Butte College, known for Aaron Rodgers going to there many, many years ago. But he's from Redding, California. It's about 3 hours northwest of Reno, up by Shasta Lake. It's not a recruited area. And he doesn't have recruitable size. He's 6'1". He was probably 220 maybe coming out of high school. So picking between Butte College and Shasta College, has a really strong season. Comes over to Nevada after that first year of junior college. The Wolfpack just really enjoyed what he was all about on the recruiting visit. They actually started him at defensive tackle at 230 pounds, just putting him at that position, not as a starter. And he just kind of continued to get better during last season. He started the last month of last year. He was phenomenal. He played really, really well. So coming into this year, he was thought to be a building block for the Wolfpack. And he's been better than that. I mean, 51 tackles as a defensive end in 6 games is insane for me. 100 tackle seasons happen from linebackers, happen from safeties. They don't happen from defensive ends. That's how hard he plays game in and game out, that he gets 7, 8, 9 tackles per game. He's got 14 tackles for loss. That's the most in the nation. He's got 5.5 sacks. That's 10th most in the nation, most in the Mountain West. He's got the most quarterback pressures in the nation. Second on that list is Miami's Reuben Bain Jr. He's going to be a top 10 pick, maybe the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. This Dylan Labara came out of nowhere. He's just earned his way by playing exceptionally hard. It's not like he's a Rudy character. He is 6'1", now 248, and he is very, very strong, and he gets under offensive linemen and uses that leverage to disrupt. I mean, even the game at Penn State against future NFL offensive tackles, he dominated in that game as well. So it's not just been against Mountain West competition. It's been against some of the best players in the nation. He's only a junior. Can Nevada keep him next year with the transfer portal? I think that's going to be very difficult. But yeah, he's been phenomenal. And Nevada's defensive line in general has been very, very good as well. I think Nevada's defense has played well above average. Last week, maybe not so well. I think they got beat up a little bit physically, but they were also down 14-0 before they took the field. I mean, it was a punt return for a touchdown, and then it was a pick six. They take the field down 14-0. And that's been the story for Nevada. The Wolfpack offense has done nothing to help this defense. And if they could just, A, not turn the ball over, and B, be a little bit better in the red zone, I think that's the glimmer of hope for Nevada. Is you have a defense that can win games. You just haven't had an offense that cannot continue to shoot itself in the foot.
It's kind of a weird deal because UNM's going through some similar things right now. 6 turnovers, 3 each in the last 2 games and all that as well. UNM is, it's homecoming. Obviously they have wins over UCLA and, they have wins over their biggest rival and all that too. And they, acquitted themselves pretty well against Michigan. UNM is an 11.5 point favorite over Nevada heading into this game. Does that sound right to you? And how do you kind of look at this? I mean, do you feel this is a closer game than that?
I think it has the chance to be a much closer game. Like I said before the game last week, Nevada had been very competitive. A 2-touchdown underdog at Fresno State. They lose by 3 despite having 4 first-half turnovers and a missed field goal. They're -3 in the turnover battle. They lose by only 3 points at Fresno State, which at the time we thought that was a really good Fresno State team. Obviously, they lost pretty handily to Colorado State, so we'll see how that plays out. They went on the road to Western Kentucky. They're winning that game for the majority of it. It ends up being like a 13-point game because they gave an onside kick return for a touchdown with about 25 seconds left. But they were a double-digit underdog in that game and probably should have won. I think Nevada has a potential to go out and beat some of these teams, but they just have not played well enough on offense. And 16 turnovers for Nevada, 14 turnovers for New Mexico this season. I think we're going to see a lot of turnovers, right? So I think whoever doesn't turn the ball over is going to be in a major point of advantage. Just looking at that line, I probably would pick Nevada, but we have to see what kind of version of Carter Jones comes out because he didn't play well last week. And like you say, he played better in the fourth quarter. Like San Diego State had his backups in by the end of the third quarter. So I think that's going to be the big question mark for Nevada. I think if Chubba Purdy was in there, the thing about Chubba is with Chubba, like Nevada was going to run for 200 yards because he's a very, very athletic quarterback. He's somebody who you have to honor in the read option. And he really helped Nevada's entire rushing attack. That's not necessarily Carter Jones. So are you giving up your ability to run the ball as well as you were with Chubba Purdy by putting in a quarterback who is a better passer? And maybe it doesn't turn it over as much. So just the one game that we've seen of Carter Jones, you wouldn't be super optimistic that Nevada's going to keep this one within 11 points. But the preceding 4 games and how Nevada played in those, if you just take away the turnovers, I would say Nevada could very well go out and make this a competitive game. You look at Jeff Choate's history, they have not been blown out very often. They're usually very competitive into the fourth quarter, no matter what the underdog line has been. The big problem is they've only won the turnover battle 3 times in now, what are we at, 13 last year, 6 this year, 19 games. They've only won the turnover battle 3 times in 19 games under Jeff Choate. So
That's an unreal stat.
Yeah, that's it's difficult to dig out of when you're not the most talented team on the field as well. So if you could tell me Nevada's not going to turn the ball over multiple times, I'll give them 1. I think this is going to be a touchdown or closer game. But they just haven't done that. Every game this year has been at least 2 turnovers.
It is you kind of touched on it earlier too, in terms of how the fan base is feeling. I mean, what is kind of the mood around the program itself right now? And what is kind of Choate saying at this point, in the sense that we touched on it earlier too? You're kind of going off script from what this year was supposed to be. And that could end up going well, but it's kind of a weird thing in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to keep optimistic, right? He's trying to sell the vision that it's going to turn around at some point, that there's going to be a breakthrough at some point. And I, as somebody who covers him and have covered a lot of different coaches, I believed he would turn this program around and they would be a bowl regular. Now, that could be the case 2026 and beyond, just because the conference isn't going to be as strong with losing 5 schools to the Pac-12. But I am surprised that this season has gone this poorly. I think some fans are kind of tired of hearing, the breakthrough is going to come, because for Jeff Choate, it's a year and 6 games. For Wolfpack fans, it is 3 years and 6 games of the same story, of the same results. So I think they are a little bit less willing to stomach the rebuild phase, because they've gone through back-to-back rebuild phases. And then you look at a New Mexico with Jason Eck, and they start 3-1 for the first time since 2007, and they beat a UCLA. You look at a Utah State, which under Bronco Mendenhall, first-year head coach, has kind of turned that thing around pretty quickly. You look at San Diego State, first season under Sean Lewis, 3-9. This year, they're beating Nevada 44-10. You want to be that team that, okay, we may give you a 1-year pass, but year 2's got to be better. And that brings me back to something I talked to Ken Wilson about the day he was fired. He said year 2 is always worse than year 1, because year 1, you've got everybody who was in the program. They stay bought in. The ones who are going to stay there are going to be maybe seniors and just want to finish out their degree. But then those guys leave in year 2, and it's kind of like a rebuild from scratch. And we saw that with Nevada to a large degree. The Wolfpack only brought back 3 or 4 starters. Kind of the core of their team is now at Memphis, maybe playing in a college football playoff game in a couple of months here, with quarterback Brendan Lewis going to Memphis, wide receiver Cortez Braham Jr. going to Memphis, and their top tackler, linebacker Drew Watts, going to Memphis. So it's kind of predictable that it's gone like this, but I certainly don't think Jeff Choate thought it was going to go like this. And I think he's trying to publicly stay optimistic, but I think internally he has to be thinking how is this going this poorly? This guy's never lost like this. The best quote he gave me before last season is I've never gone 2-10 because a lot of people were negatively recruiting against Nevada. Don't go there. They've gone 2-10 back-to-back years. Well, we went 3-10 last year. And again, the pace this year is for 2-10. So he's had to rebuild stuff before, but never to this degree of lowering to this, floor. And I think internally that's got to be beating him up pretty hard just because, it's a what have you done for me lately kind of business. And while I think he has pretty good job security for 2026, like he's got to get this thing turned around to get the fan base back on board.
These teams last met October 28th, 2023, a 34-24 Nevada win. Dylan Hopkins threw 3 first-half interceptions, and that was basically the difference in that game. The last time these teams played in Albuquerque, you got to go all the way back to 2016, which is crazy. I think that game finished around 1:10 in the morning, a 35-26 New Mexico win. Do you have a score prediction for this game and any other kind of thoughts in terms of what this game will be decided on?
Yeah, I was at that game in 2016. A lot of lightning delays. Bob Davey versus Brian Polian. It's changed a lot since then. And I mean, even the 2023 game, now that you say that, that's the last time Nevada beat a Mountain West opponent, actually. So it's been a while.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh,
It's
wow.
been a while since that happened. That was Ken Wilson's last win. They lost their next 4 Mountain West games. He was fired. No Mountain West wins last year. No Mountain West wins this year. I haven't done my score prediction yet. I probably will pick New Mexico to win by about 7 points. Obviously, as we mentioned, turnovers are going to be a big deal. I'm just curious to see what we see out of Carter Jones, right? Like, what did he learn from that first game against San Diego State? And does he look improved against a defense just frankly not as good as San Diego State? So I think it's a little tricky to predict this game just based on the inexperience of the quarterback. Jack Lane has not necessarily played that well the last 2 games for New Mexico. The thing is Wolfpack hasn't really had a lot of takeaways. They have 4 defensive takeaways in 6 games. So if that's a weakness for New Mexico, I don't know that Nevada has proven that it can take advantage of that. So I probably will pick New Mexico. I was dumb enough to pick Nevada against San Diego State last week, and that one didn't work out. I generally don't do that. But I just thought there was like a lot of optimism with Carter Jones stepping in. Like the players seemed really pumped and really believed that he was going to change their season. And I kind of feel like that was like the last card to be played for Nevada. Like he's the last of their scholarship quarterbacks who have started the game. So I'm kind of curious to see how Nevada is emotionally. I think they've been pretty upbeat talking to them at practice this week. But when that was kind of your last card and then you get it shoved down your face and you just kind of get beat up and it didn't work out, like what emotional effort do you still have the rest of the year? I know Mervyn Kenyon Jr. is really looking forward to the game, though. He played at Idaho in 2022 and 23, so a lot of former Idaho folks on New Mexico's roster, including the head coach, who he gives a lot of credit for getting him up to the FCS level and eventually the FBS level. So he'll be pumped up. I'll be curious to see the energy level of the rest of the Wolfpack. But I'll say New Mexico 28, Nevada 20. That'll be the guess.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on today. Always giving you great insights, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.